This is all being recorded, actually, because I didn't stop it, so it's fine. All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Real and Raw Relationships Unfucking Filtered, the podcast that's going to shake you out of your comfort zone and make you rethink everything you fucking thought and knew about communication, consistency, confidence, and connection. That's right, all things fucking relationships. I'm Angela Spooner. I am your relationship coach, founder of Real Raw Relationships, creator of the 8-week Real and Raw Relationship Reset, and your brutally honest bestie who's here to help you stop settling for almost right and mediocre and start building the kind of relationship that sets your soul and your body on fire on a continuous basis. Now, don't get it twisted. This ain't your fluffy, sugar-coated woo-woo relationship advice. In this podcast, we're exposing the hard truths, uncomfortable lessons, and all the beautiful, messy chaos that comes with building real, lasting love. So if you're tired of repeating the same toxic cycles, drowning in confusion and heartbreak and feeling uncomfortable sitting alone with yourself, but you're ready to feel confident, vibrant, and so damn sure of your love life, the way you parent, and the way you show up for yourself, then keep listening or watching because, babe, it's time to get real, get raw, and get the fuck over it. So let's see for this shit and dive in.
Welcome to the carnival, I'm the ringleader now. Don't hear a sound at all as I bury you 6 feet underground.
Today, I want to know, are you actually aligned or are you just attached? Are you attached to the idea or what could be? Or are you actually aligned with your partner in a way that feels sustaining, full, all the fucking things, right? So here is the juicy details, okay? Because yes, the sex is fire, right? The chemistry, electric. And y'all finish each other's sentences, right? That doesn't mean you're compatible, right? And the initial high, so we have this like initial high that we all know because we have this like chemistry and fire and all the things, right? And then fizzles out and you're like, oh, they were just not the one for me, right? It's an illusion. Chemistry is a drug, okay? And it's going to have you out here making these dumbass decisions while you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, it was fate. Oh my God, it was meant to be. No, bitch, it was not meant to be. Okay. The only person that is meant to be is your fucking self, first and foremost. All right. So I don't want you to lie to me. All right. How many times have you met someone and you're like, boom, right? You just click. You're like, oh my God. It's like Elsa and Anna, like, we finished each other's sandwiches. Oh, that's so adorable, right? Yeah, of course, right? Because that relationship wasn't toxic as fuck. But I digress. Okay. But here you go, right? The chemistry, it's so insane. You can't stop thinking about them. You're constantly sitting there and wondering, oh, what are they doing? Oh my God, I just can't do anything without them, right? My life is so dull without you. I just can't live. What's this song? I can't breathe without you. Okay, never mind. I digress. All right. But suddenly you're in this like full-blown fantasy, right? And you're picturing your life together. You know how that goes, right? You're like, you go on one fucking date and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I could see myself with you forever. Oh, we would have the most adorable children. Oh, I wonder what his parents are like. I wonder what my parents are like. And you don't even know what their favorite color is, okay? Which, by the way, that's not like the locked in reason for a good relationship, right? But here's the thing, right? You are in a fantasy mode. You feel the spark, but that's not compatibility, right? That's just you being a dumbass. I'm just kidding. You're not a dumbass, but you're making dumbass decisions based off chemistry, biological chemistry, because that's the dopamine hit, okay? Which we all know very well, that dopamine hit, that is your good, right? That is your quick fix. That's why we go into drugs. That's why we go into drinking. That's why we go into, what's another one? We eat shit that we know isn't going to make us feel better. Oh my God, I ate that pint of ice cream, but it was so good in the moment, right? We have that glass of wine because we had just a rough day. And this is not for me to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do. But the point I'm trying to make is that we all do dumb shit to get that high, to whatever our coping mechanism is. We want to feel better. We want to smoke weed so that we can feel better. We want to have sex without getting to know somebody because we want to feel better. We want to make this awkward, uncomfortable feeling go away, right? And then we sit there and we lie to ourselves. It's just meant to be. I'm meant to do this, right? Your red flags are doing the cha-cha, right? And you're sitting there and you're like, no, you're literally blowing off every single sense of self notion that you have inside of you. Why? Because it's easy. Because it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's comfortable. It's cozy. You can be squishy. You don't have to actually get out of that comfort zone, because then you would have to actually work, right? And who wants to fucking work in a relationship? Really? That's so lame, right? Anyways, so then what is compatibility? If it's obviously not just the chemistry, right? It's the real shit that determines whether you can actually build a life together or if you're just delusional and you're going cray-cray, right? So today we are breaking all of this down. We're going to be talking about chaos, how important chaos is. And no, we're not talking about the chaos that you always run towards, right? Because it's what you know. We are talking about the 5 pillars that I have created for a long and fulfilling relationship where you can say, I am compatible with this person beyond a shadow of a fucking doubt, okay? Now, these 5 pillars, they determine where you are aligned, if you are aligned, or if you're just trauma bonded to this person and you're like, ooh, anxious attachment. Let me cling to you so I don't have to deal with my shit, right? So, chemistry, what was I going to say? Let me tell you a story, actually. I want to tell you about my story because I was with a guy that at the very beginning of our relationship, he said all the right things. I remember telling him, oh my God, did you read a book about me? No, idiot. Like, do you notice that sometimes you just talk and talk and talk, right? Because you get really nervous in a first date. And then they're saying all the things you want to hear. But bitch, it's because you told him all the things you love. And he's like, hashtag me too. No, not that kind of hashtag me too. But he's sitting there and he's literally telling you, yeah, that's me too. I have all the same things. And you're like, wow. And hook, line, sinker, you're already there, right? So that was me. I was like so in love with the idea of this man that I ignored the fact that he was saying He was saying he liked to go camping. He was saying he liked to do stuff with family. He was saying all the right things, right? And then I was so delusional about the reality because I hung to what he told me he was instead of waiting to see what he actually was, right? It's that attraction, excitement, the lust. We go after the thing that they know all the right things and they know all the right ways to satisfy you, to please you, to make you desire them, right? But guess what? Once it comes down to it, you have a conversation with them and they're sitting there and they're like, anyways, next question. No, actually, or they start making jokes, cracking jokes. Or my favorite was I used to make jokes all the time. And then he would piggyback off my joke. It was more so like he would basically reword my joke. And then I'd be like, he's so funny. Literally, no, I was the funny one first and foremost. So let's get that fucking clear, right? But over time, I ignored that we didn't have the same values. We didn't even have the same lifestyles. We had nothing in common. But if we get along, right, with that person, because we get along with their drunken Friday nights together. We're like, yeah, we can go out, we can hang out, we can do all the things. But it's not about our drunken Friday nights. It's about building that intimacy on a Monday morning. Can you honestly say that you sit there and you can be intimate on that stressful Monday morning? We all know Monday mornings are hell, right? Nobody wants to deal with that. If you've got kids, even worse, because you're like, I have to do all the things and all the land, and my kids don't want to do shit because they didn't do anything all weekend, and now they're looking at you like you're the worst person in the entire fucking universe, right? Right. Because that's how it is on a Monday. Just plain and simple. But the thing is that you have the fun guy, and then you're like, I actually don't. I'm too busy. I'm too busy for that, actually. Or they're too busy, and you're sitting there trying to open up about your day, and they send the LOL. You guys ever get those LOL text messages? That is like my least favorite because it's so superficial. LOL, like, can you just stop? Are you really laughing out loud? Can you take a picture? Can you show me a video of it? Because if I can't see it, then it didn't happen. And why? Sometimes they send you the LOL and you're like, that wasn't even supposed to be funny, asshole. But you just go along with it, right? Because they give you the bare minimum and you're like so stuck to this idea of what you've already done, your house that you've already built in your mind on that first date, that you're like, oh, I can't wait to spend my life with you. And he's giving you breadcrumbs and you're like, it's so wonderful. Just delusional and in this whole little unrealistic fantasy, right? And the funny thing is that if that was all that mattered, your toxic ex would be your soulmate. And babe, they are not your fucking soulmate. Stop lying to you, okay? They're not your soulmate. They're just somebody that you used to know. You're welcome. Anyways, now, when you're in love with the idea of someone, not who they really are, here's some things that go through your mind. You want something so bad and you start losing yourself, right? And if this is you, then it's a sign. It's a sign. If you can't say what you love, what you actually love, and everything that you describe that somebody asks you questions is built off of what your kids do and what you do for your kids and what you do for your spouse or for your significant other or for, or your parents or your coworkers or your boss, all the things you do for everyone else. And you can't say one fucking thing that you do for yourself. You're losing yourself. Okay. Now, it makes you think that you're in love. But for me, I wanted what he said, not who he actually was. And then we spent so long sitting there with me trying to convince myself that he was that person and convince myself that he wanted us. He just didn't know it yet. And then I just turned into the Captain Save-A-Ho, right? Because I'm like, I can do this, right? But don't save him. He don't want to be saved. So stop, right? He doesn't want to be saved. And he doesn't necessarily need to be saved. If a man tells you something on the first date, that's literally just him telling you so he can make a good impression. That's not necessarily who he is, right? That's him saying, I mean, you do it too, right? You're like, I love to do this and I love to do this. And then guess what? It's not like you sit there and you're like, I love farting and I love burping and I love doing all the things. And when I'm trying to shave my butt hair, like, no, you don't have those like intimate conversations, right? No, because you don't want to scare them away. So you're going to talk about all the good things that you do. Even if you only do it once in a blue moon, if you've ever done it, you always mention it on the first date because you want to be that person that everybody wants, right? But if their actions do not match their words, we still cling to the words as if magically they will remember what words they said and they will turn that into actions as if it's witchcraft. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, no, that's what I used to say to myself all the fucking time, right? I would always, it got to the point where he was even like, he would come over and he'd start degrading me. Why? Because he actually had a lot of issues. He's very insecure. And so the more he brought me down, the more I could meet him, right? Because what do people that are very, very emotionally unstable do? They bring you down to their level so that they can feel adequate around you because it makes them uncomfortable to be around somebody that they constantly feel uncomfortable around, right? Oh, they're judging me. No, bitch, you're judging yourself, right? Anyways, so we fit ourselves into a box. Like, have you ever heard of the, like, Spirit, the motivational speaker therapist? She was talking the other day on a talk show, and she was talking about being in this square. So what we do is we put ourselves in this square, in the circle, right? We're like, oh, they're perfect for me. But what we're doing is we're putting ourselves in this space. We are degrading our own selves and sense of self so that they can shine, so that they can sit there and maybe possibly say, you're all the things that I want. And you're not even all the things that you want anymore, right? You're like, oh, well, better luck next time. So if you feel like you have to tone yourself down or you have to limit who you are in order to be with somebody, and if you're even questioning what that really means, you probably have that issue. So you cling to that one because you're trying to you pick people that essentially are fitting your needs that you haven't met. So you can fix them. You can do all these things for them, right? You can sit there and say, well, I've changed them. I've grown them into this beautiful thing, but it's a cycle. You're not connecting with them. They're not your project, right? And you actually inhibit your growth and their growth because they are sitting there trying to bring you down. You're letting them do that. And then neither one of you is able to sit there and look at your own shit, right? I wasn't falling for him. I was falling for his wounds, right? His pain, they mirrored my own pain. So I was like, ooh, there. Oh, he's just emotionally unavailable. No, bitch, you're emotionally unavailable, right? If he pulled away, I chased him. If he shut down, then I try to fix him. I would sit there and say, I need to do this for him. And I'm throwing myself on the wayside. So if you're constantly feeling like you're being triggered or you're feeling anxious or you feel like you're trying to prove what your worth is and you're sitting there and saying, oh, well, I just felt defensive, and you're always trying to like reason with why he did this, right? You're like, oh, well, he did this because of this. You're giving him excuses, which I'm not saying that he's a bad person for it. I don't fucking know. I don't know the guy, right? But for me personally, I would give him excuses over and over. There were points that he even said, I don't know if I want this. And I was so focused to the idea and I wanted to help him because deep down I was like, no, but deep down you do want something. That may have been true for him, right? But I was trying to push something that I believed. And just because you believe it doesn't mean anybody else fucking believes it. Just because you think that they're 100% compatible for you doesn't mean they believe that, right? So, what is compatibility? Because if it's not all that shit, right? Let's talk about the 5 pillars. The C.H.A.O.S. All right? So, C, connection. Do you feel seen? Do you feel heard? Do you feel understood? Ask yourself, can you be your full, unfiltered self with them? Do they actually listen or just wait for their turn to talk? Do they make you feel safe or are you constantly walking on eggshells? If you have had to edit yourself consistently so that you can feel this illusion that you are loved, then you don't have connection. You are just an amazing performer. This is all a performance. Congratulations. You're not getting any kind of awards for this, right? All you're getting is Ben and Jerry's at 11 o'clock at night. So if you can't sit in a room doing absolutely nothing together and you can't feel connected and you're just filling space and filling your itinerary or your calendar with items to do because you're trying to fill the void and you can't just sit and be, you're not building love, right? So then we have H, honesty. Can you handle the truth? Right? It's like Jerry Maguire. You can handle the truth. Not Jerry. Is it Jerry Maguire? I don't even remember anymore. Few Good Men. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Yeah, it's Few Good Men. Anyways, okay. You can you handle the truth? Or do you just avoid conflict? Like, think about it. Can you actually call each other out without it turning into World War III? And you guys are screaming bloody murder at each other? Can you Be transparent about your feelings. Or are you constantly trying to sugarcoat to keep the peace? Now, I don't have delusions of grandeur. I know that you're going to have arguments and you're going to have fights. But the question is, can you be honest? Okay? Can you be honest with that person? Take down your walls. Can you speak when something feels off? Can you say, actually, I feel like that hurt my feelings. I really don't like your fucking cooking. Can you be completely honest with them and trust that you can hold yourself with whatever they say? If you're constantly second guessing how they feel or you're playing detective, then it's kind of like you're playing hide and seek, right? You're like, come and get me, right? But if you can't be brutally honest, then you're like this ticking time bomb of resentment. And then you have an argument about something so tiny and it turns into this like massacre where you're like, I hate you and you did all this stuff to me. And they're sitting there and they're like, next time I'll put the milk away, my bad, right? And you're like, oh, I fucking hate this and I hate this. And you can't just actually sit with what really is going on, right? So that brings us to the next one. Are you in alignment? So that's what I was talking about with conflicts, right? Because people confuse conflicts in a relationship with being in alignment or being connected, right? No. Alignment, are you moving in the same direction? Or do you feel like you have to dumb yourself down to bring them up to your level or vice versa, right? You're what you're trying to do is you're trying to hold hands and you're walking in separate paths. And you're like, no, I can still do this. Look, the paths are still close together. I can still do this. And then you're drained and you're tired and you feel defeated because you're trying to make something work that just doesn't work. And again, relationships are hard, but the problem is that when there is no combining and there's no growth over time, do you want the same life? Do you want that? Or are you just hoping one day they'll change their minds? These are the things that you ask yourself. Stop giving yourself excuses and saying, oh, well, no, we fought or we did this. Yeah, but you weren't even emotionally available. You weren't even able to talk about your concerns. You just assumed that an argument meant that you guys were toxic, right? So do you inspire each other to grow? All right. Are you dragging them down? Are they dragging you down? Now, the next one is O. It is ownership. Ownership. Do you both take responsibility or is it one of you always the villain? See, when things go wrong, do you both take accountability or is it always somebody else's fault? How can any relationship work if you don't actually take accountability? You're always pointing the finger. Somebody says their feelings are hurt, and instead of trying to see their perspective, we're too busy trying to argue our case, trying to show why our feelings matter too. And it's like, both of your fucking feelings matter, but do you care about that? No, you don't fucking care about that. You're like, my feelings matter. Who gives a shit about everyone else, right? But can you admit that you are actually wrong? That's the real question. Can you admit that you are wrong? Or are you constantly in that defensive mode, right? No relationship is going to survive without two emotionally mature people owning their shit. If you cannot own your shit, then what the fuck are you doing dating? Anyone in general. Oh, he's the problem. Oh, she's the problem. Oh, that's the problem. Oh, my mom, my childhood's the problem. Everything else is the problem, right? But you can't take any kind of accountability. And our last one is security. Do you feel safe or are you constantly on edge? Now, can you fully trust this person? Right? That goes back to what we were saying with the honesty. Do you trust them or do you always feel like something's off? Do you feel safe and secure? Even in the most stressful moments, do you feel safe to be you? Does it bring peace to your life? Or is it bringing you anxiety constantly? And again, you can have anxiety in a relationship without it being toxic. It's about a balance, guys. You're like, oh, you bring me anxiety because you don't do the dishes. Or you bring me anxiety because you don't take my side all the time. Like, be reasonable, right? That's why you do the whole chaos, right? If you're constantly like hot and cold, you're on and off, all these mixed signals, you're like yes and then you're no, it's like the song, right? You're hot, then you're cold, you're yes, then you're no, you're in, then you're out, you're up, and then you know what I'm saying. I'm not going to sing the whole song, guys. But it's like emotional whiplash. And you're like, "Oh, it's just passion." And then you're like, "Why do I feel nauseous?" You know why you feel nauseous. It's because you're lying to yourself, right? Okay. Love should feel safe. You should feel connected. It should not feel like I am stressed out to be with somebody. That's when you sit there and you say, let's look at the chaos. Let's look about our compatibility. What is it that makes us compatible? Right? Because sometimes you just have arguments and you're like, oh, we need to end this. And sometimes you should have ended that a while ago, right? So it's looking at these things and looking at your reasoning for losing your shit, the reasons that you feel insecure, right? So what was it going to say? We'll talk about that later. Let's recap, okay? So if you don't have connection, honesty, alignment, ownership, security, you are not compatible. You're attached to the idea, okay? Are you building something real, intense, fiery, and long-lasting, consistent, where there's confidence on both sides, and you feel like this powerful pillar that's next to another powerful pillar, and together you guys are building the most beautiful, firm stronghold? Or are you constantly trying to hold up their pillar or expecting them to hold your pillar up? You see what I'm saying? If you need to hear this, then I want you to really take this in, okay? Because if this is hitting you, don't fucking sit there and tonight start tossing and turning and shaming yourself. Don't fucking do that. Own your shit. Be curious about your shit, because that is where that real, raw connection with your partner can happen. Now, if you enjoyed this, as always, I want you to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube, all the fucking things. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, if you are ready to have the most orgasmic in every sense, not just sexual, orgasmic, sensational relationships of your life, then hit me up, realrawrelationships.com, and schedule an unfiltered call with me today. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.